Hey guys, how you all doing? So this is a fresh out of the shower review because I got to get going through my work day. Let me tell you about my scent of the day. It is one that I just got in. It's Prada Infusion Iris Cedre. And I'll be doing a review of this one probably next. So the fragrance that I'm going to be talking about this morning is YSL's L'Homme Ultime flanker, and it looks like it's a discontinued fragrance. I'm not entirely sure, but it seems to be out of stock on YSL's website, but you could still get it on discounters. Last I checked on FragranceNet, this is going for the 2-ounce bottle, which you see here, is going for about $60, which is pretty good. It's just kind of standard, and for YSL, I think it's reasonable. And generally Yves Saint Laurent fragrances, I think are rock solid, but they don't really blow me away. They smell very refined, clean, modern, fresh, and I like La Nuit de L'Homme. It's just they don't have that, for me, wow factor anymore. But I think this one, L'Homme Ultime, is a great release, and I think it came out 2017, and when it first came out, everybody sort of reviewed it and was talking about it, and it seems like it's not really talked about so much anymore. It's mentioned here and there, but it's flying under the radar, and I think it's a really good fragrance. Personally, I do think the scent of La Nuit de L'Homme overall is better. Slightly better. It's a little bit of a better composition, smoother, but this is more versatile as a daytime scent and also for warmer weather. And so, I would actually prefer to have a full bottle of L'Homme Ultime than La Nuit de L'Homme. I've talked about how, La Nuit de L'Homme has a great scent, but to me it can sometimes feel stuffy, and it's more for fall season. It's a super nice smell, but it's not as versatile for daytime wear, and this one is. So this basically is predominantly like a dewy rose combined with the creaminess of La Nuit de L'Homme, and you will be reminded of La Nuit de L'Homme, I think a little bit more so than the original L'Homme. And by the way, I do think this is straight up better than the original L'Homme, for me at least. It's more interesting. I think this is such a great fragrance for the spring, the weather these days, as well as rainy days, or like post rainy day, when you have moisture in the air. This type of like dewy rose, I think, is just so perfect. It kind of just, I visualize like, blades of grass and just the water dripping down. There's some sweetness, there's some refreshing watery aspect. This one has both that and a creamy aspect as well, similar to La Nuit de L'Homme. And yeah, that's why I think this is one that is great for this season. I think you do have to like a little bit of a metrosexual vibe. But that goes with, I think, the whole kind of L'Homme line. They're not the most in-your-face, aggressive, masculine type of scents. So if you like L'Homme in general, what I just said, don't let that scare you. So let's talk about the smell. This opens up, and actually I'm going to spray it right now. Okay, so I can already smell it from the nozzle. It's quite sweet. It has a sweetness. So opens up very fresh. And it's quite light wearing, which is good, but it retains some depth. It's not just like a light, citrus summer fragrance. There's a good, strong backbone to it. Yeah, so what I get right away is a blast of freshness and sweetness. And what's interesting is that the opening of this, there's a juicy fruitiness that reminds me right away of actually Yves Saint Laurent's Y, specifically more the eau de parfum, which is a little bit sweeter and denser, less watery than the eau de toilette. There's, this reminds me more of Y than the original L'Homme. And it reminds me of Y plus La Nuit de L'Homme. And this shares the note of cardamom with La Nuit de L'Homme. And of course, this has the unique kind of added rose. But the rose is not kind of an overpowering note in this fragrance. It's just more subtle. Fragrances like Declaration d'un Soir is really popular. That one also is supposed to be like a kind of masculine rose interpretation, but I do find the rose note there is a bit stronger, and it can feel a little bit old and stuffy. Now, if you like Declaration d'un Soir, but you feel maybe it's a little bit too old smelling, this is perfect. This takes that similar kind of idea, but makes it fresher, makes it crisper. And much more wearable, much more mass appealing as well. I don't think that there's gonna be a single person that doesn't like this scent. You could say it's not your favorite scent, but it's not. There's nothing offensive about this. So it reminded me so much of Y that I looked up the notes, right, of this afterwards, and then I saw there are notes of sage, geranium, and apple. And those are the exact same notes that are found in Yves Saint Laurent's Y Eau de Parfum. And what's interesting is that that's a really different mid compared to the original L'Homme. And why don't we actually give the original L'Homme a smell so I can tell you, how it compares right now. And by the way, there's also a ginger note that's shared among the Y line as well as Y Eau de Parfum, as well as this one, L'Homme Ultime, as well as L'Homme the original. So I've got the L'Homme original here. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's arguable whether L'Homme is better or L'Homme Ultime is better. I think they're actually quite different to me. That it just depends on the kind of scent you like and the kind of person. L'Homme reminds me a little bit more of, gives me a feel of like Dolce & Gabbana's Pour Homme. There's no tobacco, I believe, in here, but in terms of that kind of powdery masculine smell, it reminds me more of, it's more in that direction, whereas L'Homme Ultime is more La Nuit de L'Homme and Declaration d'un Soir, that type of fragrance. L'Homme Ultime also comes across like a lot sharper, in a good way. To me, it's more refreshing and also sweeter. And like I said, in the direction of YSL's Y, that type of sweetness. And the reason Y is not a favorite fragrance of mine is because of the sweetness, and it's a little too sharp, a little too metallic for me. I know that a lot of people love that juicy sweetness. L'Homme Ultime has that juicy sweetness and the similar kind of herbal aspect, from sage, and this sharpness, not bitterness, sharpness, but it's less, it's toned down compared to Y. And then there are, of course, other aspects, cardamom, which gives it a little more body, and then the rose, right? Like I said, a kind of dewy, sweet rose feel. Now, L'Homme is different. The ginger, I think, is more prominent in L'Homme, and the ginger, it's more center stage in L'Homme. And also, overall, even though there is no kind of apple note, it gives me a different kind of apple note. It's weird. This is the one, L'Homme Ultime is the one that has the apple note listed, but the original L'Homme gives like a apple feel that's not tart, an apple that's not tart, right? Just like your Red Delicious apple, that type of apple note, even though apple's not listed. What I find to be really special about this one, L'Homme Ultime, by the way, it's an eau de parfum, which is different as well, is that it develops really nicely. And it's hard to say that for a lot of designer fragrances. There's some interesting changes, and also the dry down, I think, is better, actually. Well, I don't know. It's different than the opening, right? It's equally nice. I told you the opening is more fresh, more powerful in your face. And what it dries down to is like, initially it dries down to like a sweet kind of cedar scent, again with that tinge of rose. And then what's interesting is, deeper into the dry down, several hours later, it starts to give off a more clean, kind of airy, more linen-like feel. And that you know, it does sit closer to your skin at that point, but that feel, it's just so clean, and that, you know, overpowering sweetness, it's not so overpowering here, but the sweetness that someone like me might not like is has gone away at that point. And this gives off a very clean, crisp feel with that rose that gives it some like elegance, right? It's refined. I think it's appropriate for work. It's good for warmer weather, you know, especially spring. You know, in the high heat, maybe I would go for more, I would go for less creamy types of scents, and maybe less sweet, but still would work, right? I think if you're a fan of Y, you will like this scent, but it might be redundant for you, right? If you already have Y and enjoy wearing it, you know, this smells different, but it's sort of appeals to the same crowd, that, you know, that juicy sweetness, the sage, geranium to balance things out. You know, so it might be redundant, but worth it if it is different, right? But if you're looking for, if you're like me, right, and you thought, well, okay, Y is good, it's mass appealing, but it's just, it's not really for me. It's a little too sweet. Maybe a little synthetic feeling. This is a bit smoother, a bit creamier, like I said. And then as it dries down, it becomes more subtle and cleaner, more airy. And that's why I prefer this to Y. I think I find more uses for it because of how light and fresh and clean it wears, while still having that sort of La Nuit de L'Homme attractiveness, right? So I think this is a great one, something different, right, from most things out there. Let me know if you've tried this, you know, what you think, and you like this more than La Nuit de L'Homme or L'Homme. You know, what's your favorite among the flankers? Let me know, and I'll see you next time.